Good evening, everyone, and thanks very much for joining. My name is Bert Monro. I'm the CEO of Cora Gold. Cora Gold is a West African-focused gold explorer and developer. Our main assets are in Mali and in Senegal. So I'm just going to, hopefully you can all see my presentation on the screen. I'm just going to go through a few slides and obviously looking forward to some Q&A at the end as well. Just giving you a little bit of background on Cora. It was listed back in 2017. It came about through the amalgamation of some Hummingbird Resources permits with Cora, which was an existing private company. It's got a large land package. We've got over 1,100 square kilometers of ground. Our main asset is called SANANKORO. We've got a 1 to 2 million ounce exploration target on that permit. We've got a maiden resource and a scoping study with a very high IRR, over 100% IRR at a $1,500 gold price, generating really good free cash flow based on that study. Earlier this year, we announced a $21 million funding term sheet for SANANKORO based on completion of a DFS before the end of next year. And we have around $5 million of cash in the bank as we stand. We feel we've got a really strong share register. The Quirk family and Lord Michael Farmer, our two largest shareholders, significant resource in who have been supporting Cora and obviously continually investing in various payments, as well as the likes of Hummingbird and others. I'll just go through the slides a bit more on shareholders and on corporate side of things later. So I'll just get into the overview. Cora's focus is really on developing SANANKORO. So our focus is on fast tracking SANANKORO to production as quickly as possible. At SANANKORO, we've got nice deep oxide material with very high recoveries. So our belief is that we can move into production with a relatively low capex compared to industry peers and operate with a relatively low operating cost as well, all based around the fact that we've got, I guess, significantly than average oxide. So often people might have 30 to 40 meters of oxide material, so the free digging material near surface. We've got up to 100 of it. Our strategy is over the next 6 months to drill out as much as possible to try and grow our resources and bring an updated resource statement, hopefully with a larger resource, but also with an increased confidence in those resources. So moving from inferred into measured and indicated, and then look to move into feasibility study work and have that all wrapped up before the end of next year. Concurrent to that sort of fast track strategy, we are also continuing exploration regionally. We've got some really prospective ground in great postcodes. So we're still looking to drill out and see if we can't make some virgin discoveries. I think we've all been involved and seen the benefit of what a big discovery hole can do for junior companies. So we're hoping we're still offering shareholders that optionality as well with the drill returning in other permits outside of SANANKORO. The team, obviously I joined in January this year. I spent the previous 11 years, so I've been involved both when Hummingbird was private, exploring in the Liberian jungle, where we made a 4 million ounce discovery, and then also through the acquisition and build of YANFOLILA in Mali. I think significantly on this page is Norm Bailey. I brought Norm in a couple of months ago as head of exploration. Norm's got around 30 years of experience, and he's got to his name 30 million ounces of discovery and development in West Africa. It's a phenomenal CV. He was at Redback through Chirano and Tasiast and the sale to Kinross for 6 billion. And more recently, he's been head of exploration for Centamin. So he's a guy of great caliber. So it's great to have him on board, really driving forward our exploration programs as we move forward. Here's a little bit more on our land packages. On the left of your screen, you can see our West Mali and Senegalese projects. We were drilling Medina Fulbe earlier this year, but late. Arguably, this is the prospective area in West Africa, certainly, potentially even in Africa. You can see some really significant mines operating there. For example, Sadiola, very close to our permits. On the right-hand side of your screen, this is our main permit area. You've got in the middle the SANANKORO project area, which is made up of 5 permits. And you've also got the ground surrounding the YANFOLILA gold mine and some ground to the north of SANANKORO as well. Again, on a very prospective shear zone, obviously, as you can see there, some big discoveries: Kalana, Trike, YANFOLILA, Kabada, all on strike with our permits. I'm just going to talk about SANANKORO for a little bit before I move on to the other projects. As I touched on now, 5 continuous permits, nearly 400 square kilometers of ground, so a big land package, nice deep oxide mineralization, a large exploration target limited to 100 meters of depth. We've drilled mineralization down to 170 meters to date, and that target's just limited to 100 meters. So plenty of scope to grow bigger, and obviously a financing package in place. So pretty rare for a company of our stage to have, I guess, one, the cash position we've got, 5 million in the bank, sort of fully funding our programs we're looking forward to doing over the coming 6 months, and also then a funding term sheet in place for the completion of a feasibility study at the end of next year, assuming we hit all the various hurdles. Dipping into the scoping study we published in Q1 this year, what we had is a nice high margin project, based on good grade and oxides, nice shallow ore. I think there are plenty of improvements I'd be looking to make as we move into feasibility study work. I think with increased geotechnical and hydrological work, I would hope to be having some slightly deeper pit slopes. In this plan, there was only a 34-degree pit slope, so it led us to a slightly higher strip ratio than we may be expecting. Obviously, increased mining costs, which are generally your highest operating cost for a mine. So for us, I think there's improvements to be made here. Obviously, not least the most significant one, which is growing our resource a lot, which I hope we'll be doing. Touching into a few more details on the scoping study itself, I think the key thing to maybe show here is that even at a $1,300 gold price, you've got a 60% IRR. So it's a really robust project, even in significantly lower gold price environments than we're in now. And I think really this is, in my mind, the tip of the iceberg. We committed to, obviously before my time, but Cora had committed to launching into a scoping study at the start of 2019, which it delivered on. But I think it hadn't probably drilled as much as it would have hoped to. And I think when you look at the resource compared to the size of the exploration target, I think getting the meters in the ground over the coming 4 or 5 months, I think hopefully should be reaping some really exciting benefits for us. So this is a resource estimate, so a little under 300,000 ounces in inferred at the moment. I think it's important to say these are fully pit constrained inferred resources. So we had very good conversion into the theoretical mine plan. What you can see on the map, which is probably the most important thing to look at, is the red blobs are essentially where the resource pits are. The fact there are gaps between the red bits isn't because there's no gold there, it's because we haven't drilled it. So I think the exciting bit for me is to go out there with the drill rigs. I think there's about 15 to 18,000 meters of drilling in those resource numbers. And we're planning to drill hopefully somewhere towards 35 to 40,000 meters of drilling over the next 4 or 5 months. So I think that significant increase in drilling into the ground, closing up those existing pits, should be some exciting times in terms of drill results, but also then hopefully leading into, I guess, positive things on the resource side of things as well. Again, just looking through some of the drill highlights from last year and earlier this year as well. SANANKORO's got some great grade and some great widths of mineralization. I think that's really what you want to see is nice widths of mineralization, because it helps with mining. You also want to see it relatively near surface as well. As you can see, those 46 meters at 4.5 grams a ton from under 50 meters of depth is a great hole. Again, 17 meters at 5 grams a ton from 37 meters of depth. I mean, you've got some really good results there, many of which haven't been sort of stepped out from. So I think looking to step out from some of these really good holes will obviously hopefully help our resource, fingers crossed, and also drive a lot of news flow in the coming months as we get the drilling done. So the timeline I've been sort of touching on, I think we, with the support of our major shareholders, we are looking to move this forward as quickly as possible. Traditionally, people will probably spend a few years drilling out what might deliver the perfect spreadsheet model. Our view is that we're trying to drive value for existing shareholders and drive our and obviously help the share price in that respect. So for us, if we can get to hopefully somewhere sort of 7-8 years of mine life, and then build a project and then grow the project from cash flow, that will be significantly better for all of our existing shareholders than it would doing fundraise after fundraise and just drilling campaign after drilling campaign. At the moment, if we can grow the resource a little bit, and then tighten up the economics and release a feasibility study before the end of next year, I think we will be moving pretty quickly. To achieve that, we also started our ESIA, our environmental social impact assessment, early this year. They generally take around 12 months plus to complete. So we're concurrently working on the ESIA, which should allow us towards the end of next year to start on various aspects of permitting for the project. And then obviously my hope is that we'll be in early 2022 or the first half of 2022, assuming everything's come together well, we'll be able to move towards construction. So really exciting 18 months ahead for Cora, I think, with a fair wind behind us, with a decent level of cash in the bank and good support from our shareholders and having built out the team a little bit, I think we're in a really strong position to deliver in what is obviously a great gold price environment. I think it's worth spending a little bit of time just talking about this $21 million term sheet. Based on our scoping study CapEx, this would fully finance the construction into positive cash flow for SANANKORO. Lionhead is an investment fund which is linked with the Quirk family. Obviously, they've had a significant experience in the mining sector. They were the largest shareholders of Lionor, which sold out for over $6 billion to Norilsk in 2007, been involved in a number of other very successful mining businesses and operations. The terms are extremely competitive. Of the $21 million, $10 million in a straightforward 10% interest rate, sort of vanilla debt facility, $6 million of equity with a convertible loan of $5 million at a 30% premium to the equity. So I think compared to other single asset junior companies operating in Africa, I think it would be hard for anyone to argue these aren't very competitive terms. So it's great to have a very supportive shareholder and one which is prepared to commit this level of funding on anticipation of completion of a feasibility study at the end of next year. So got a close relationship with the guys. It's really good to be working with them, and it's really good to have their support to enable us to commit so aggressively to moving SANANKORO forward. So exciting times for SANANKORO in that regard. Moving away from SANANKORO and talking about the YANFOLILA project area. Obviously in the middle of that map, you can see the YANFOLILA gold mine, obviously owned by Hummingbird Resources. We've got a nice suite of permits which surround it really. Tekla-Dugu, for example, is within 8 kilometers of the process plant and is actually within 2 kilometers of some of their mine infrastructure. So I think it's really exciting for two reasons really. One is obviously you've got drill discoveries, which is always good to be working with, and obviously the ability to make a standalone discovery and hopefully drill out a nice resource is definitely there on those permits. But I think secondly, when you're that close to an existing mine infrastructure, it gives you sort of double the optionality. Obviously, it gives you the potential to create mine feed for YANFOLILA if it merited it. But equally, there's always the option of having standalone operations as well. So the earlier stage in SANANKORO, it's pre-resource, but you've got some really nice hits there. Tekla-Dugu, 56 meters at 2.2 grams a ton is a great drill hole. Tegan, where we just started drilling at the start of the week, following up some nice wide mineralizations, 43 meters at over a gram a ton and 25 meters over a gram a ton. So those are near surface hits. But it's had, Tegan's had very little drilling really to date. So looking forward to drilling some more holes there and seeing what that brings. Here's the KENIEBA window. This is West Mali and just over the border into Senegal. Medina Foubé sits right on the Senegalese Mali border, and it's on the Senegalese side. We were drilling it earlier this year, and unfortunately it was paused due to COVID. Within ECOWAS, our Malian staff can move between the border freely, but during COVID, unfortunately, they were stopped from moving freely between the border, so that meant we had to cease the program. Looking forward to getting back to it and hopefully finishing it in the coming month or so. Had some good wide hits of mineralization, but to be honest, the grade was probably a little bit lower than we were hoping for. I think if you were getting the grade up over a gram or a gram and a half a ton, you'd be really, really excited about this ground. I think with where it's at now, we've only just done 2 or 3 holes there, and only it's a 250 square kilometer permit. So looking forward to drilling out some of the other targets on that permit and hoping we can continue to find the widths of mineralization, but hope to find a little bit more grade as well. And I think this could become an exciting new district for potentially. So fingers crossed on getting started again, and fingers crossed on the results when we get going. A little bit on Mali and Senegal for everyone who's not as familiar with it. Both really well-established mining jurisdictions. Both have got good, stable mining codes. Experienced workforce, which is great. Good infrastructure. I was down at site last week, actually, at SANANKORO. I mean, you drive 3 hours on a nice tarmac road, no potholes, unlike the UK, and then you're on about an hour on a dirt road at the end. So, very easy to get to, very straightforward. I think, depending how hard you Google Mali, obviously it's had its issues and doesn't necessarily always Google perfectly, but I think a lot of that is really in the north of the country. It's over 1,000 kilometers north of where we're operating. To date, it's my understanding in over 25 years of commercial gold mining, Mali's never lost a day's production for any sort of civil unrest or anything like that. So for us, it's been a great place to operate, and we certainly enjoying there. And I think it's arguably, the most prospective region in Africa right now. So we've certainly got the ground and the right postcode. I won't talk about this at length now because I think, but it is extremely important to us. I think operating within your community as partners is obviously important. We've done some great projects with the local communities, focused really around, I guess, alternative livelihoods, healthcare and education. So been working on those. I've had some long meetings and discussions last week when I was out at site about projects we can do through the course of next year. So looking to implement some other new exciting projects. I think it's very important to keep a firm focus on this as well. The mining industry is very broad, and whilst we sat, I guess, predominantly in the UK, probably focused purely on the returns. I think in terms of delivering those returns, you also need to remember that you're operating with a number of stakeholders who all have varying needs. So it's an important part of the business, which is very interesting, but and one we need to continue to look at and develop. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to take them after this, and obviously always discuss any time, but probably enough touched on for now. A little bit on the corporate side of things, obviously AIM listed, as you know, I'm sure all of you know, we've got a very tight share register. 5 people or 5 groups own well over 50% of our stock, so it's very tightly held, and we've generally had extremely good support in any fundraisers we've done from our existing holders. Always looking to grow the register and meet new people, but I think as we stand, I think for a company this size, the combination of our cash position, the existing holders, and the term sheet we've got in place for completion of the feasibility study, I think we're set very strongly. But obviously through Turner Pope and others, always looking to meet new shareholders, and always happy to answer any phone calls or emails if anyone's got any questions and aren't able to ask them on the Q&A. No doubt everyone will tell you they're the cheapest company here tonight, but I think it's easy to see there are a number of companies here. I think all of these guys on this are pre-resource. We've already got a resource and a scoping study, and we've also got a suite of assets with discoveries on as well. So I don't think it's hard to see how a couple of good drill holes into a new permit or showing the growth of SANANKORO could significantly transform Cora from where we are today to where we could be. So for me, I need to get out there and wear out my shoe leather, doing a bit more marketing, or my seat leather, I suppose, in these COVID times, and do a bit more marketing. And it's great to be getting the drill rig going again post wet season. So that's obviously an easier thing to talk about progress on the ground now, which is great. Just to overview and just to finish off, I think hopefully I've touched on all these points today, but for me, Cora is a great opportunity and a great company. It's got a really strong team which has been together for a really long period of time in country, delivering discoveries both for Cora and for previous companies. In SANANKORO, you've got a project with very strong economics, but also which has only really touched the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg in terms of discovery. So my hope is we can drive a lot more resource growth in the coming year and deliver a really strong feasibility study. Stepping back, you've also got a large land holding, which allows you that optionality to make new discoveries and bigger discoveries. And I think we've all seen examples this year of a discovery hole transforming a company's position, which is exciting. We're sat with a really strong cash position, $5 million in the bank, and a $21 million term sheet contingent on delivery of a positive DFS before the end of next year. So I think we're really well set up for the next 12 months, and looking forward to getting really busy and keeping busy on the ground and driving forward that progress. So thank you all very much for listening, and looking forward to questions any you've got. Thank you.
Let's start off with quite a tricky one, I suppose. Do you think the company's rating has been disproportionately affected by the coup in Mali when you've experienced no interruptions in your operations?
Yeah, hi Justin. Yeah, I guess probably sadly yes, but I mean, I was out in Mali last week. It was great, actually. It was good to see the team. Obviously, I met the new minister of the interim government for mines. So I guess inevitably, when people see that sort of news that there was, the headline never looks great, but I think underneath it, you've now got a new government in place. It was a completely peaceful transition of government, albeit instigated by the military. So yeah, probably sadly a little bit affected by it still, but I think on the front foot, we're drilling again. The wet season's over and we're sort of cracking on. And I was out there last week seeing the troops, and yeah, all good.
And when that's happening there, I mean, do you feel any threat, any worry at all, or is it just the headlines tend to be, because obviously it's a big country pretty much, and it's happening in one area maybe. And like I said, is it a lot more worrying looking at the headlines and the actuality of it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, look, I wasn't in Mali when it happened, so I can't really speak for the team. But I mean, on the day and over those days, I was speaking with our country manager and others. And yeah, they were very relaxed about it, to be honest. And they weren't. Yeah, I guess the sensationalism. I guess particularly in the COVID world, when there's no new news or no good news other than hearing about COVID. So I guess probably it got probably a bit of an elevated profile because it was something interesting and something different to write about. But yeah, the reality was, whilst it's not a great headline, on the ground it was a smooth transition. There's a new set of ministers and government in place, so moving forward.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? Just off piece there, but a bit. But I remember years ago when there was riots in London, people setting fire to stuff, and there's press around the world saying, "Don't go to the UK; it's on fire." And we thought, "What are you talking about?" It's like it's one little area of London, but there we are. Okay, yeah. So do you have an additional resource target for your current drilling campaign at SANANKORO?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just to put that in context, we've obviously just started drilling again. Our plan is to be drilling pretty aggressively over the next 4 or 5 months. And then on the back of that drilling campaign, obviously during that period, we'll be releasing results, hopefully continuously after we get the first batch in over that period. And at the end of it, it should culminate, I would expect, in a new resource statement released in Q2 next year. So absolutely, the drilling's focused around SANANKORO to deliver an updated resource.
Yeah. And the $21 million facility for SANANKORO targets a DFS before the end of next year. What are your milestones that you need to achieve before you can access the funding?
Yeah, so just to step back 1 second from that, we've currently got $5 million in the bank, so we've got a great cash position which fully funds this drilling campaign and the work we're planning to do going forward. So the news flow to deliver that is obviously lots of drilling, updated resource statement, moving into a feasibility study, hopefully sort of Q2 through Q3, and then obviously completion of the feasibility study in Q4. Concurrently, we've started our ESIA already, our environmental and social impact assessment, which is part of being able to get your mining permit as well. So that should all be culminating and coming together in the second half of next year to enable that term sheet to come into place, assuming everything goes well, before the end of next year.
Yeah, okay. And what is the drilling in the YANFOLILA area trying to achieve, and what are the timelines around it?
Yeah, so we've obviously, our main asset and main project is called SANANKORO. It's about 100 kilometers north of the YANFOLILA gold mine, which is Hummingbird's gold mine, which probably lots of people are aware of. The YANFOLILA set of permits for Cora sort of create a bit of a ring around the YANFOLILA gold mine. We just started drilling on one of those permits in the last few days. So it's following up, essentially, we've got drilled discoveries on a number of those permits. So we're literally looking to follow up on those drilled discoveries, hoping to show that the mineralization extends much further. So over the course of this sort of drilling season, over the next 4 or 5 months, we'll be trying to drill as many of those permits as possible. It's not about getting to a resource at this stage. It's more about drilling out the discoveries, trying to show the scale of it, really. And then obviously probably on the back of success, we'd obviously be looking to probably move towards sort of resource drilling at a later date.
Okay. Talking about Hummingbird, how will you ensure you maximize shareholder value and not, for example, sell out too cheaply to Hummingbird?
Well, interesting question. I mean, look, we've got our own strategy, we've got our own investors, and we've got our own plan. Hummingbird's on the register as an 11% shareholder, but I guess more significantly, our 2 largest shareholders, the Quirk family and Lord Michael Farmer, combined own around 50% of the company. They're obviously extremely large resource investors who have had, a long multi-generational, multi-decade history of resource investing. So I guess they're the ones who are in it really not to make sort of 20 or 30% return, right? They're in it to make a significant uplift on their investment, and they've continually followed their money. So Hummingbird with 11%, whilst a significant shareholder and whilst an important shareholder, they aren't in the driving seat in terms of the ability to take it away from existing shareholders with a sort of a cheap offer or anything.
Yeah. And one final one from me, gold itself there. I mean, I get up in the morning, check my phone, normally look at, emails of that. Do you go straight for the gold price? Or how often do you check the gold price? Do you do it a lot?
I don't check it first thing in the morning, but yeah, I mean, of my sort of tabs I have open on my computer every day, yeah, one of them is the gold price, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm not checking it every minute, but a bit like your share price, it's good to check it a few times a day, isn't it? Just see where it's at.
Yeah, what's your thoughts generally? I mean, you know, it's nice to obviously have an opinion, but no one really knows where it's going. But it's you know, it went above $2,000. It's back to 1840 now. What's your thoughts there?
Well, I always say, look, my focus is on delivering our company strategy and objective, and then ultimately, I can't do anything about the gold price. There's no point sort of guesstimating. But I mean, every single bit of research I read from lots of people who spend probably far longer than me analysing it has suggested the gold price is rising. I mean, every major bank is forecasting the gold price, I think, being north of $2,000 an ounce next year. So I think, look, everything suggests it's going to continue to be very strong and go upwards. I mean, I know it's been a little bit soft and come off the 2,000 mark recently, but if you look back, you know, at the start of this year, it was below 1,500. At the start of last year, it was below 1,250. So if you think where we are now in the 1800s, it's a very, very strong gold price. I think the average cost of production globally is about $1,000 an ounce for all mines. That includes deep open pits, underground mines. So for Cora, you know, you're looking at shallow oxide development. So I would be expecting it, yeah, any gold price over $1,500, you'd be making really big margins. I'd certainly be hoping to anyway.
Yeah, so by the dip. Okay, marvelous stuff. Bert, thanks very much for taking part, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Justin. Thanks a lot. Night, guys.